Hi, I'm DeAnna. Are you ready to ditch the I'm not good enough story and start rebuilding from a place of worth? Each week, we dive into the messy middle of transformation, real stories of reinvention, career pivots, and people who rewrote their identity and their lives. I am not here to sugarcoat. I'm here to wake you up to what is possible. So if you're ready to reclaim your power and build the life that feels like home, you're in the right place. Welcome to Worthy and Rewritten. Chris, I would love to welcome you to Worthy and Rewritten. I'm so inspired by your work with like intuition and being able to really tune in and listen to what your body is saying. And so I'm excited for this conversation. I think your story is going to be quite inspiring.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So my understanding is that you do some deep work with helping people kind of reconnect with their bodies. And yeah, could you tell us a bit more about that?
Of course. I am essentially climbing into your chakra system and I read your chakra energy because the body has a story to tell. And I essentially go in to see what the body wants to share because the body will share things in layers. Energy always reveals itself in layers. So the outermost layers is basically the body saying, hey, I want to be looked at. That kind of creates an awareness to start. So when I'm working with a client, I'm sitting in their chakras, I'm exploring their chakras. I am basically finding their trauma energy. I'm finding their personality. I'm finding their story, what hurts, what brings them joy. And because a lot of people come to me to help heal trauma, that is essentially what we are exploring. I don't necessarily look for it, but it definitely knows how to introduce itself to me. And I really want to help people take their power back and heal because what has happened to us in life affects us in life. And it's not just memory. It's, when the body holds memory, then over time, that's when we start to get sick. That's when we start to have issues. That's when we start to have disruptions in work and relationships. So when we could get to the root cause of what's going on in my body, then like I said, I like to give people their power back of let's work on healing that. Let's bring your body back because we start to get a little separated from ourselves and our energy starts to divide and split in ways. So this helps to help people essentially become more centered, more connected to themselves.
You are so right, especially with trauma, right? That disconnection from self and not being able to tune in and understand their body. So if I'm a listener, and I'm familiar a little bit with chakras, but can you help say nobody's heard the word chakra? So when you say that, can you give us a brief introduction to chakras and what that means?
Yes, of course. We have hundreds of, over 100 chakras, I should say. It's 144 chakras, but I work with the 7 main chakras that people are probably used to seeing pictures of going from root to crown in the body, usually someone sitting in a yoga position. And they're energy wheels and they spin much like wheels would spin. They can overspin, they can underspin. Sometimes I'll see them as enlarged. Sometimes I'll see them as tight, depending on what is going on with that person's body. But these energy centers essentially affect these parts of our bodies. So just as an example, because everyone is familiar with the heart and the heart center and being emotional from the heart. So your heart chakra does say a lot about you emotionally. And I can say almost every time somebody has a mother wound, I'm going to see it in the heart chakra. I also will often find an inner child in the heart chakra. Not always inner children, though, because they are very heart-centered in nature and helping people connect to their inner child. If the inner child shows up, it usually is that inner child saying, I'm ready to be worked with. So not everyone will have that show up. But essentially, when it comes to chakras, it's these energy centers, they work as wheels. The chakra is a Sanskrit term, and they each have their own energy power, if you will. So like root chakra, when we think of being rooted, being grounded, but it also is related to fear, anything fear-based. But also if you have fear energy that's relevant in your body, you're also not going to be well grounded. So there are a lot of things that just looking at one chakra can tell you so much. So looking at all 7, that's usually when people come to me, those first sessions are pretty long.
So what do you mean when I find something in the heart center? So how do you find this somebody?
Yeah, great question. When I first started doing this, things would just kind of come at me. So I would be seeing things in my mind's eye, or I'd feel things. I'd sometimes hear things. Now, as I've developed and I've become more of an expert in this field, what I essentially do is I walk into the chakra. So as I walk into each person's chakra and each individual chakra, it's almost like I'm in my head and I'm walking into a room. So sometimes I feel invited to sit down. Other times, chakras can also work kind of like bouncers, I like to call them, where they'll vet me, like, is she safe to come in? Usually the client has already vetted me because they've asked for a session. But if a chakra is guarded, I'm going to feel that. And I'm going to also feel why. So that's always fun. No reading is ever the same. I am always finding new things, exploring new things, but I'll essentially be in the chakra and I'm looking around, I'm waiting to see what comes to me, what energy is most prevalent, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. So it's very much like an exploratory process. So I don't go in looking for a certain thing specifically, but let's just say there's a chakra that's blocked or semi-blocked. Then I'm going to start looking for things because it's a little more closed in. So it's almost like I'm weeding out some of the things that have kept it tighter, kept it closed, or kept it blocked to allow me to see, okay, what's going to bring light to it? What's going to help heal it? And I also work to do things in the sessions. Like if I have a closed chakra, a tight chakra, I'm going to do things to help open that and to help clear it, at least to the best that I can at that time. You know, I mean, when it comes to healing, we all love the quick fix, but it didn't happen overnight. We don't heal overnight. Chakras are the same, but they can at least have a certain amount of energy brought into it for a session to help cleanse it enough where I could go in, I could explore, I could see what's going on. I have yet to have a chakra that has not let me in. Some will be blocked in the sense that it's just so tight, it's so closed, and I'll at least be able to get to the why is it blocked and help to work, unblock it, help it, ease it. Because like I said, the chakras are wheels. So the wheel is likely, if it's blocked, it's under spinning. And we want to get that spinning back to a more, that neutral state of spinning where it benefits the body. But oftentimes when it's blocked, they're already having some physical symptoms. So as an example, if I have a blocked sacral chakra, they might be having, as a woman, some menstrual issues, some fertility issues. They might also be blocked creatively. If there's a blocked throat chakra, that person very likely has a thyroid condition or some sort of throat ailment. And like I said, when they're blocked, the body's already explaining that to the individual. And we just have to learn how to listen. The body whispers before it screams.
Right. So I come to you. How are you detecting this? Is it through energy? Like, how are you knowing that one of my chakras is blocked? What is the work that you're doing? Is it energetic?
It's energetic and it's psychic. I'm essentially, and most of my clients are online. Some do come to me in person, but more often than not, people are finding me online now, the beauty of the internet. So what I'll do is I am connecting my chakra system to your chakra system. And then we are sitting together in this joint energy. And really, this happens all the time. Like, anytime you meet a person, you connect with a person, it doesn't have to be a deep connection, but you are now creating these energetic cords. And that's why we could sometimes feel amazing around people and sometimes feel a little icky around people. It's because of that transference of energy and how that went. So for me, I'm joining with you as my sitter, my client. And, I walk you through a grounding because for me, it helps that the client is grounded as best as they possibly can be in order for me to then read the chakras. So I always start at the root and I work my way up to the crown. This is just how I've always felt guided to do it. Some people may do it differently. I don't believe any energy reader is the same. So it really is just a matter of who you feel aligned with. And I just start walking in. I ask permission. I'm always asking permission from the chakras to let me in and let me explore. And I often have a lot of clients that are very intuitive. So I invite them to do the same to see if anything comes up for them and if they start seeing things, feeling things, getting any kind of impressions. Because it's a very spiritual process and it helps get in touch with yourself and to feel the feels that are coming up as we're doing this. Some people have said they feel very nervous because it's weird. I once had a guy after our session, he was crying and in a very nice way, but he's like, I can't even believe what I felt. It's like you were climbing in me and you were seeing these vulnerable parts of me. And I say that not to scare people because I will always respect energetic boundaries. The body's never going to reveal what you don't want to share. I have a lot of clients with very significant trauma, and if the body has chosen to hide that or to keep that closed, it will. I will feel a sense of like, okay, there's some intense trauma going on. And because I've done this enough, I'll have a very strong impression of what that's connected to. I do get a lot of people that have had some intense sexual trauma, but I will also feel if the client is not at all willing to go there. And I, like I said, will always respect that boundary.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question was you speak of it like this work that you do helps so much with trauma. And from what I know about you is that, was it your trauma that led you to this work? Was it, I heard you had to separate yourself from some narcissistic parents.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of deep trauma. Like, could you share with us a bit about that? And
Yeah, I had a interesting childhood. It was very abusive, physically, emotionally abusive. It took me a very long time to cut them off. I endured a lot. And I don't want to paint my parents as these awful people. They're very broken in ways, and they chose not to heal. And I made a different decision. And my motivator was my children because my father's physically abusive. He had hit one of my children. And at that time, I did choose to forgive him. I regret that. But at the time, I still wanted a relationship with my family of origin. It was another 8 years. And anyone that's in any kind of narcissistic relationship knows the abuse is cyclical. So it's just a matter of time of when that cycle's just going to go around again. And it did over and over. And then it came to the point where my dad threatened my husband physically. And that was my not doing this anymore. I am done. And it was the hardest decision I'd ever made in my life. And it was scary. I was terrified. When you have parents like I do, the first thing you feel is not relief, it's fear. I was terrified of what they might do to me, how they might hurt me, if they're going to try and take my children from me. I had all of these very, what now seem like irrational fears, but because of the way I was brought up, they were very real in my life.
Well, that was your nervous system, I would imagine, right?
Exactly. I was hypervigilant. I was in fight and flight my entire life, and I didn't know that. Just, that was my normal. So healing was such an important part of my journey, but my healing and calming my nervous system, I love that you brought that up, opened me up to spirit. When your nervous system is in this hypervigilant state, it blocks your intuition, it blocks your intuitive abilities, and it disconnects you from yourself. So while over my lifetime, I had a lot of hints telling me I was psychic, that I could do this kind of work, that I could even speak to people that have passed. I didn't really know it or believe it until I was healing. And then things just started happening. It was almost like magic, but really I was just like onboarding, all of these things that I could technically do already. Now I was aligned to do it. My body felt safe to do it. And I would be having a conversation like you and I are having right now, and I would see someone in my mind's eye that clearly wasn't living right behind that person.
But you got to tell me a bit about that. I was going to ask you about those whispers. So was this, they were clear then. They were a little bit more than a whisper. They were very present.
It was so present. It was right in my face. I was absolutely stunned. And at first I ignored it because I felt a little crazy, to be completely honest. And I think I chalked it up to a one-off. Like, oh, it's just one thing. I've been able to do this over my life. So maybe this is just something new and it'll pass. But it didn't. Anyone who works with spirit knows when they want to work with you, they will keep coming. And it's like a continual knock on your door. And they just kept coming. And I had no idea how to communicate with them because they don't have physical bodies anymore. They don't communicate like we do. It's all telepathic. So I had to learn that. And I started taking classes and I just fell into it just so deeply. I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was finding myself. I had so much fun with it. And I don't really do a lot of mediumship anymore because my work just really led me to help the living. So I feel a lot more connected to the work I do now. And maybe that'll change again. Who knows? But I really love that this is where I'm at and just the evolution that I've had because I made a very difficult decision to say, no more, this ends with me.
One of the most difficult decisions that you have no connection with them now.
It's about 9.5 now.
This stayed consistent for you? Have you wavered from how you feel about the relationship and wanting to go back, or was that when you made that decision, has that been consistent for those 9 years?
Mostly consistent. My only regret is not doing it sooner. My parents, especially my mother, have shown me throughout these 9 years many different situations that only validated my decision. And while I absolutely miss the idea of having amazing, loving parents who love me, but that's not what I signed up for in this lifetime. I think there's a version of love that they understand, but it's very conditional and it is abusive, but it's all they know. So they're very limited, and I know I deserve more, but I had to learn to do that for myself and especially for my own family, my own children. I just feel the most amazing amount of peace. I never knew what true peace felt like until I learned to heal. I learned to calm my nervous system. And it's like they say, you can't get better in an environment that made you sick. I would not have been in this place if I stayed in a relationship with them. While I love them and I absolutely wish them well and don't want to villainize anybody, I know my life feels so much safer not having them in it.
Yeah, actually, I was having a conversation with a client the other day about that. It's when you're in a situation and every day your nervous system is experiencing the same thing, it's really hard to heal. It's when you remove yourself and you're no longer in that environment. The nervous system will repair. You will be able to become in like a parasympathetic state, in a relaxed state, but not if you remain in that environment.
Exactly. Because we think that as adults, we don't live with them anymore, so it gets better. And to some degree, it does, but the patterns are still relevant and they still happen. And, I wasn't living with my parents when my first child got hit by my father. And I was so brokenhearted that happened and so angry with myself because I did everything I possibly could, at least at the time that I felt I could, to protect my children. I was nursing my second child at the time and he spit up all over me. So I had to go get something to clean up because I didn't have something handy. I wasn't at my home. And I left the room. And when I came back, I saw the look on my son's face that I once wore. And I knew
Oh,
exactly what happened before even asking. He was 2 years old at the time.
I can't imagine.
It was just something in me just broke. And I didn't even feel strong. I just felt broken. Like, how can this have carried into my adulthood? And I let it. So I really had to learn to forgive myself for that. And I think part of me still is trying to because it's my job as the mother, especially to protect my children. And eventually I did. Eventually I did get that strength. I just wish I found it sooner. My kids deserve that.
Well, you talked about the fear in you. So I can imagine you were battling with wanting to, of course, protect your child and also that fear that you discussed. So fear of staying, fear of going, both.
Yes. A lot of fear. A lot of fear. I was parented by fear my entire life. But so were my parents. They were both parented by fear. And it's an ugly cycle. We are a society that's often controlled by fear. So it's very normal for so many of us. And getting to that place of having faith over fear is very empowering.
Yeah. I talk with clients about that. It's like we're either fear-based or faith-based, right? Yeah. So my question now is, yes, you've done a lot of work. You're very in tune with your nervous system. You're clear your chakras. You do all this work. Do you still find that you have triggers?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, it's funny. I think when we're on this healing journey, we get to this place of we want to be healed. We want to be better. We want everything to feel really good all the time. And why wouldn't we, especially if we've had a lot of trauma. And I had a lot of trauma. I had a lot of things over the years where I'm like, I don't want to ever deal with that again. Whenever we're triggered, it's the body's signal that something doesn't feel safe. And oftentimes we have to work through that, remind ourselves we are safe because often we are. The bear is no longer present. But I grew up with so much intense abuse. I wait for the worst to happen. I mean, the worst things that have ever been said or done to me in this lifetime have been done by people that were supposed to love me.
And we're supposed to be safe.
That we're supposed to be safe. Exactly. So not having that, there was a lot of retraining. And if anyone brings that up, it can certainly trigger me, but Not in the way it used to. Now I look at it like an activation. Like, okay, something in me is asking to be looked at. Because I, especially now, specialize in narcissism and narcissistic abuse. So a lot of people that are finding me have dealt with narcissism in this lifetime or are with a narcissist, or a lot of my clients find me because they are divorcing a narcissist. And that's a really big challenge, especially when there are kids involved. So I'm happy that I don't get triggered by what clients go through, but I fully understand. And that's why I value the fact that I'm able to do this, because anyone that has these experiences, you want to really turn to someone that gets it because they've lived it. And when someone understands that because they've experienced that and they've had all of the things that we know, and then they turn around and teach you,
That's
it's
right.
so empowering.
Yeah, I think people often say, like, they think that therapists have it all together. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, we are serving the people that we once were, right? Like, this is
Exactly.
the reason I specialize in these areas is because I've been there, I've walked it, I get that path. So, yeah, what you're saying is you can sit with people as well and completely understand what they're going through because you've been there.
Yeah, it becomes your calling.
Like, are we ever free from the triggers? I mean, I know that it's less and now it is a whisper, it's not a scream, but like 20 years later, my nervous system still gets activated from a narcissist. Like, when does the body, do you have experience with people who have like they're 20 years out? Is this normal? Is what I'm experiencing?
Yo, absolutely. But I also look at it this way. I really like to bless my nervous system in those moments because you want your nervous system to work. So if I get triggered, my first reaction is thank you, nervous system,
I love it.
and just blessing myself. Like, I'm so glad you are alerting me to someone that is technically not safe. Are they going to physically harm me? Most likely, no. But I know that person's not for me. They're probably here for some sort of lesson, because now that I'm in the spiritual world, I'm like, well, I'd probably ask for this in some way, shape, or form. But when it comes to that trigger, like I said, I really like to look at it as activation. I actually just had this happen to me last week. I have a friend, and her husband is narcissistic. And I had a really challenging time being in his presence. And I was triggered. And I think for the most part, I was just more sad for her that she doesn't see this version of him in the way that I feel it, because it took me a good 24 hours to shake the energy of it. Because when you are in this kind of work and you're sensitive to energy, it's not just the actual experience, it's what you're physically experiencing, it's what you're energetically
Yeah.
experiencing.
That's got to be hard to
Yeah, you kind of
sit
want
with
to
that
be a
energy.
hermit when you do my kind of work, because you just feel everything. I wouldn't say it makes me a hermit completely. I do appreciate that I could go out in the world, but I also appreciate my discernment. I know when someone's not for me, and I choose not to be in their presence. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to be nice just because it seems like the nice thing to do. I'm going to be nice to myself. I deserve that. I've earned that. So like I said, discernment has been the biggest lesson for me in that. And I appreciate that more than anything. Do I wish, though, that triggers can go away and I don't have to feel any of that? 100%. That's what it is to be human. We like to feel good. But seeing it as an activation and also seeing our power in it is so amazing. Like, I didn't cower. I didn't feel scared. I didn't go to all the stuff that I would have in the past. I didn't even go to anger. I just was like, "Ooh, that sucked."
I'm activated. I like that you're changing the relationship with the trigger. Like, yeah, you're grateful for it. Thank you. I feel you. You're giving me a message here. Thanks for the notification. You're changing that relationship with it.
Exactly.
That
So then
that
I
is
don't
more
look at it like
empowering
it's gonna
than,
hurt me.
yeah. So, and I guess, but you're not triggered by your actual parents anymore being like, they're not in your presence at all. So,
No.
okay.
Every once in a while, I'll get something, and it's usually not nice, and in the past, my stomach would drop.
Hmm.
And, because the fear would be I'd be bracing myself. So that has lessened. Now I just kinda laugh like, "What is it now?" And I remember that shift when it happened, how good it felt, and I was surprised by it too. I didn't know that could ever be possible, to get some really nasty note from my mom and to not feel sad, but to just be like, okay, you do you. You're
Yeah.
clearly not going to heal. And it's not my responsibility that you heal. It's only the responsibility that I heal and I protect my kids from you who are talking.
Yeah. This detachment from their emotions and their experience.
Exactly. And I just, like I said, that peace has been really amazing. And I don't really miss them. I miss the idea of them. I miss the idea of a mother who could actually love me without judging me, without saying something cruel, a father that had my back, that supported me, that lifted me up instead of put me down. I didn't have that in this lifetime. Did I have moments of it though? Absolutely. I don't believe my parents are bad people. They just didn't have parents that love them in the way that I wanted to be loved. How did they know? I wish they would have made the choice to heal because I did. But again, we only have our journey to live and we can't change other people, only ourselves. And I'm really grateful that I took that step for myself.
Okay, so you made the decision. You were a hard, as soon as your husband was threatened physically, that was a moment for you. Did you go through a process of grief?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of grief because a lot of to what people don't understand, especially when it comes to a child cutting off a parent, that goes against the grain. That is not normal. That is against everything biologically, physiologically, energetically. And to do that is, there's this form of torture and self-hatred that you go through, that thinking you're a terrible child, you're a terrible person. And I was also predisposed to feel like I was a terrible child and a terrible person. That was something I'd heard my entire life. So it was no better when I chose to cut them off. I was really grieving this loss of the relationship. I was grieving relationship with my siblings because, I mean, I have two siblings. My brother is turning into my father and my sister's turned into my mother. You know,
Or- Oh, you don't have relationships with them?
no. I kept a relationship with my sister for a little bit, but found out she was playing both sides and a lot of things were being shared without my permission, even when I said not to. So that was the final straw for me. And I needed a boundary and she wasn't, I put it up. She didn't respect it. So that was it. My brother's very physically abusive with his children. So I wasn't going to let my children near him at all. So yeah, that grief is compounded and fully layered because you first grieve this loss and it can feel like a death. And then you have to prepare yourself for the inevitable, what happens when your parents die. So people that have chosen to cut off their parents, they grieve them a couple of times because you're grieving it that first time. And then when they ultimately pass, assuming it's done in the order of they pass before you,
Yeah.
you're having another version of grief and of loss. And it's certainly important to process that, I feel, and allow yourself to come to a place of peace within with that, or otherwise you're going to torture yourself and feeling like you're a terrible person. And others might make you feel like you're a terrible person. My mother-in-law actually was rather mean in this regard. She didn't care that her own son was threatened, that her grandchild was hit. She was more about, but that's your mother.
She
It was
couldn't understand why you had to do that. Yeah.
no.
That's hard.
That was really hard because here I'm thinking my in-laws might be supportive. There's physical abuse here, and they could not care less.
To their child and their grandchild.
Their child and their grandchild. It was more about, we are so programmed as a society to honor our parents. And that I'm really glad that's starting to shift because we're not letting our parents get away with these kinds of behaviors. We wouldn't allow that kind of behavior with a friend. Why is it any different with a family member? Abuse is abuse. The title and a role doesn't change that. Behavior is very clear in those situations. And I feel the more supportive we can be of people in these situations, the easier it is for them to navigate them because it is not an easy road. It feels very isolating and very lonely. And the first year and absolutely the first 3 to 6 months are the most difficult. Once you get past that first year, you start to figure out more of who you are and do I want a relationship with them or not? And as I said, I kept getting a lot of proof over time validating my decision and never an apology, never And I wasn't even seeking so much an apology, even just a conversation of, hey, can we talk? Can we try and make this better? No, I would get really nasty notes, really nasty messages, just like threatening in ways, because that's how my childhood was. Do this or else. I'm going to
Right.
take this away unless you do this.
What are they threatening you at that point? You've already dissolved the relationship. So what are these threats?
It's financial. My parents have quite a bit of money, so not being in the will, that kind of stuff. And I honestly did not care. I really didn't. So they can have it. And I've even prepared my children for it. That's the only play my parents have. They're going to try and buy my children. And I've let my kids know this is the play. That's what they're going to do. It's what they always do. It's what they've done with relatives that still speak to them. Most of their own siblings do not speak to them. I wasn't the first to cut them off. And that was the thing, too, that I think made me rather upset that my in-laws weren't supportive, because here I was like, I'm not the first to have done this. I'm just the first.
The pattern here.
The pattern is there, and there's a reason. So it's okay. It's been part of my process. This has been such a long time. So I don't hold ill will towards anyone in this. Disappointment along the time, the years that have gone by and things that have happened, sure. But I don't believe in holding on to that kind of ugly anger energy, because then I'm just going to carry that, and that's not going to serve me or my body. So
no, the whole reason you did this was to release that energy.
Exactly. I want to feel free. I want to feel peaceful. I want to be happy. I want to know what joy is. It's been a journey. I appreciate it. Were there times I wish for different? Absolutely. But it's okay. I'm stronger for it.
So total side note here. I was curious, as you're saying all this, I'm wondering, when you work with people that are coming from narcissistic abuse, whether it's romantic relationships, parents, children, are there certain chakras that you notice and that are blocked? Or can you notice it, is it everywhere in the body? I guess I'm just curious, are there certain things that you show up? Once you're in these relationship with a narcissist, does it affect us similarly in the nervous system, or are we all different?
I will say yes to both. It does affect us similarly, but everyone will have something individual that is unique to them and their experience, because narcissism itself is a spectrum. There's no one narcissist that's like the other, but I will always see something in the solar plexus that's consistent. And the solar plexus is the chakra that, for anyone that doesn't know, that is just below their rib cage, kind of that higher gut area that is connected to our personal power. And narcissism is all about power and control. So I will see a discrepancy in that chakra. I'm actually writing a book on this, so I'm excited for that to be out there more.
That's very exciting. Yeah, well, I'll have to look it up. But how far along are you? Is it
I
coming
am
here?
about 10 chapters in. I hope to have it finished by summer, and I would love to have it published within the next year, however that's meant to be published. I'm going to trust the universe on that one, do my part, and I'm looking forward to when it's in the world.
Well, this conversation was, I could sit with you all day and talk about this stuff. You activated so much. This conversation, my body is just firing right now with all the different layers of this. So Chris, if there's a listener out there that's also going, okay, I know that I've got some of this energy work, my trauma, I feel it in my nervous system, or maybe I'm disconnected from my nervous system and myself. Where could people find you? What's the best way to connect with you if the listener's feeling like this is a real fit for them?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is my website, which is my name, chriswasko.com. And I'm on social media. You can find me. I'm most active on Facebook if people just want to kind of dip their toes in what I'm about. But like I said, my website's the easiest.
Okay, amazing. I will post that in the show notes. So I want to thank you again for coming on here. I've learned so much from you. I've understood even more what's still trapped in my body, and that I got work to do. So this was such a great conversation and such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a great chat.
That's it for today's episode of Worthy and Rewritten. If you enjoyed what you heard, please hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can wake up their worth and build lives they don't need to escape from. So please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, if your gut has been screaming that there's more for you, listen to it. You're not too old, too late, or too far gone. You're right on time. See you next time.